Okay, we'll go ahead and start out with the approval of the minutes. The minutes from the last meeting were sent. Any corrections to these minutes? Do I have a motion of approval?
Make a motion to approve the previous minutes.
Fred? Do I have a second?
Second.
John? Fred. Fred and John. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Wrong nameplate.
First on our agenda is the coroner, Mr. Amstutz. You're seeking an additional appropriation of $12,000 for autopsy fees, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, do you have anything you want to say?
When I was here before in the budget hearings, we had 46 cases with 13 autopsies ordered. We are now at 62 cases with 21 autopsies ordered. Currently, we have already expended our budget of $25,000 for autopsy fees. For the budget for next year, we requested an additional $12,000, which would have been a total of $37,000. I am requesting that amount for this year to finish out the year as well. So we already are about $3,000 over budget when we get the bills. We haven't got the bills yet.
So hopefully we're trying to cover the rest of the year then.
Yes.
If we did not spend the additional, it would just go back into the general.
Exactly.
Okay.
It goes right back into the general fund.
Does this fund have its own cash balance, or is it just part of general?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Fred made a motion to approve.
Second.
John seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Thanks.
I'm going to jump ahead since the sheriff's here. Sheriff, would you mind coming on up? We're going to talk about your 7,300 additional for assistant dispatcher and 5,900 for overtime. These are additional appropriations, correct?
Correct.
And these are out of E911?
Correct. It's basically just covering open shifts. We maintain two dispatchers at all times. And with some of the people, early in the year, we had Marion August left, and we had that spot vacated for a while, for a couple months, and that took a chunk of change early in the year. And just with people taking off, sick, COVID, it's just we're short in these areas. And it comes out of the fund, and the cash balance of that fund is $397,271.56. So there's plenty of money there for this appropriation.
And this will get you through to the end of the year?
We believe so.
When do you typically get the I guess you call it bonus payment, but then is it the beginning of the year?
What bonus payment?
From the E911.
Oh, it's at the end of the year. After they do all the final disbursements, yes, there's one payment that comes in at the end of the year. And actually,
I shouldn't say bonus, miscellaneous.
correct, it's the leftover that the state receives in taxes after they do their normal disbursements. Then whatever money's left over, then they have a formula and counties get a little bit more. But yeah, that comes in, I think, middle of December. Bree, can you help me out with that? Did we already get it?
Got it October 25th.
Oh, okay. How much was that?
$66,760.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Fred made a motion.
Second.
John seconded. Corey, do you have?
I just have a quick question. Yeah,
Yeah.
so just, is this the same one as the emergency telephone system? Is that E911 the same thing as emergency telephone system? Or there's different accounts?
No, it's all the same. It's
But
all E911.
It's the same thing?
1222.
It's just a different name for it, but it's the same account?
Probably because the state board and the TLGF, their names don't match up yet.
Okay. Okay, so I was showing that one was projected to end the year, with next year's budget, that one's gonna end with 61,000, which just doesn't mean this is a bad, cause, but just to make sure, I know it has 3 something in it right now, but by the time we get to the end of the budget next year, after spending everything, it's projected we'll get 61. So that doesn't mean we say no to this, but 7,000 out of 61 is a bigger number just to be aware of.
And that was
I'm still okay
before
with it, but
that October payment.
is that accurate? So those October payments are not in the miscellaneous revenue?
We just take so they get 36,254 each month. So usually you just take that times 12 and we don't figure in because we never know what they're going to get until like when they send us.
Okay.
So,
So that 60 will end up being more like 140 plus whatever is unspent.
correct.
Whatever is unspent rolls back in general.
No,
No,
911 stays in that fund. That, like right now, there's a cash balance of that, but like we get so much a month, so that's how it seems like there's always more in there than there is because it's just, we get that 36 a month, but then every month we take out of that, but yeah. But, so we should have 100, what'd you say, about
It would be a 60, but if you're adding in another
166,
66, maybe about 120.
20.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
And lastly, I handed each of you a packet. This is our 2021 jail inspection from Department of Corrections. We have no issues. It's a good inspection, but I am required to provide a copy of it to you, to commissioners, to 2 judges, and then keep a file on with the clerk's office, and they will have that today by the end of business. But if you have any questions over that, you can email me, but you'll see that it covers a wide variety. It covers their diet for the inmates, it covers temperatures inside the building that they check. It's very thorough. We have no issues. We were not written up for any violations of any kind. It was a good inspection. Any questions over that? I understand I just gave it to you, but if you have questions later, please don't hesitate to call or email me, and I can answer any questions you may have.
So I'm just looking at the second page, just a quick question. It says, have you had a State Board of Accounts audit? Yes, 2/1 of 19, even though they just did it this year?
But this year was done after we did the inspection.
Okay.
The inspection came in, and it takes them a while to get the final copy to us, so it was done before that.
Okay.
And it looks like 19 in red because 20, they did not do an audit. When we did the 20 and 21s this year, so that's why that shows a 19 even number, which even is 2 years old. But yeah, we're current with our audits.
Any further questions for the sheriff?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Brad, you just walked in. Let's go ahead and cover your, trying to move us quickly today.
I'll say, yeah, you guys are moving, that's good.
Transfer from maintenance worker to engineering, $17,610.
Yep. That's for cover the raises.
This
Okay,
is just a transfer expense?
this is just a transfer.
Yeah, just transfer.
You're transferring from the maintenance worker to the
Yep.
engineer, correct?
Yeah, that line for the engineering was created for that,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll move to approve.
Corey made a motion.
Second.
Keith seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Easy peasy.
Thank you, yeah, and good morning, everyone, by the way. Have a nice trip.
Is Rex around somewhere?
He had to go up to, Seabury for a little bit.
Okay. You can probably,
You wanna wait for him to go back?
well, can you speak concerning the dog pound and the council on aging?
Yeah,
Okay.
a little bit. But anyway, the dog pound, what we have done is to increase the amount that we were paying Powers and Sprinters was a premium to have them continue to the end of the year. So what that did, that ran that line item pretty close to zero. I don't know where it's at right now exactly, but it's in the red. So we would need the additional appropriation to finish out the year with Sprungers and Bowers until Heiser's take over the new contract. So hopefully that will get us to the end of the year.
And the new contract is supposed to go into effect January? Or when do you hope that?
Yeah, Bowers have agreed to continue until December 31st. So Heiser's have plans to have their shelter up and running by that time.
Which all this was delayed a little bit, correct me if I'm wrong, Stan, because it took a while to get permits for the sewer and the septic and all that stuff, to meet requirements, so.
Yeah.
When does their contract end? Bowers, Springer.
Bowers, December 31st.
Well, their contract ended in July 1, but we're on month to month with them and Sprungers from now to the end of the year. It's just a month
So
to
the
month.
30 is from covering July to December?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And we ran into, permitting problems with the new proposed shelter for the septic system. Had to get permission from the State Department of Health for an additional tank. And we had to go through a deed restriction. The Heisers had to agree to a deed restriction on their property in order to allow to have the new septic system. So they had to limit their house to a 1-bedroom occupancy, even though it's 3-bedroom, in order to be able to utilize the septic system that is permitted for the site. So we really had to negotiate with them to get that worked out. They were willing to do that. And it looks like, going forward, we're gonna have a new shelter at a really reasonable cost, much less than what we had anticipated back in June. The next lowest, or the next bidder was $120,000, and that was just for shelter services, and then would have been another $15,000 for, collection of animals, so it would have been $135,000. So we're in a lot better shape than we thought, but obviously we've got, the only other alternative is to shut the shelter down right now until we get a new building up.
If you look in surrounding counties, we are still doing well here in Adams County, and, that's in part,
I think
The
when we
state of
looked
Mark
at what
really
Wells
stepped up.
County is paying, Stan, you looked at that, it was over 200.
Yeah, their budget, which is shared between the city of Bluffton and Wells County government, that was a couple of years ago, was already right around 200,000.
and isn't Jay County spending $1 million to build a facility?
Not the county. The county is not.
There's
But
still
the
gonna be $1
private
million.
entities are.
Okay, well, they're getting, it'll still take, a decent budget to run that, but,
The county's only spending $15,000 though.
we're still in pretty good shape as compared to the surrounding counties.
Well, we're just hoping to get a new facility started as soon as possible, so we don't have any interruption of shelter facilities.
Stan, is there, I don't have any problem with that amount, but is there anywhere in your commissioner's budget that is, going to be unspent that we could transfer instead of having an additional?
I'm not sure what we would transfer out of. I know initially we had a budget that we presented to you that would have accounted for this additional premium cost. And then at budget hearings, that was reduced from 100,000 to 60,000. So,
For next year, you mean, or for this year?
but as far as this year, I don't know where we would transfer that out.
Do you have?
I'm trying, I really don't think there is. Honestly, I do all of the commissioners and auditors, I do all their transfers and all their additionals, and I always look through their budgets, and you can transfer, but then they're gonna come for something else. It's just, you don't know, and we still have pretty much all of November and December. I know there's some other things that's gonna come for additionals, but they're in the red, so.
Yeah, I just know one of the big things we've been talking about is that, there's a lot of money unspent in the budget. We keep saying that, and how that artificially makes things look worse than they really are. And if that's the case, then there's gotta be money. If it's unspent, then we're only a month away from the end of the year. We probably can know what those are. We probably can figure, 30,000 out of the commissioner's budget's what, about $1 million or so? There's gotta be, if we're saying there's a lot unspent, we should be able to find it to transfer it. I mean, if you tell me that number's not accurate, then that's fine. But I guess I just want to know, like, can we look and see how much is unspent, commissioners?
I'm looking right now. I mean, you could transfer, I guess, from engineer. But, I mean, a lot of these, there's not that much, so then you're just going to start transferring.
How much is in the engineer currently?
There's 55,975 in there, and that should not be touched the rest of the year. If I hire an engineer.
But if we hire an engineer, it's gonna come out of an MVH.
Mhm.
So we don't, in all reality, we shouldn't be using that, right?
Mhm.
So we can't transfer that?
Where's the engineer's budget now? Is it in?
It's in commissioners for this year. Next year it's going to
MVH.
Yeah, so it wouldn't come out of engineers, it wouldn't come out of NVH until anything paid.
January 1.
January 1.
Yeah.
So if there was somebody hired before the end of the year, then the question is how much, do you need in that commissioner's engineer line item to pay for
It sounds
wages
like
until the end of the year?
you have about 25,000 left, right? You said it's 55 in there, this would be 30, so you have 25 left in case you did hire somebody. I think that's a good idea. Commissioners, are you guys okay with that, or what do you think?
I guess we'd have to have a discussion again with the auditor's office and see whether that's something we want to advertise, doing it as a transfer.
Well, so we don't have to advertise it or transfers. But anything coming to you guys today has been, advertised. And like I've said before, it's not cheap advertising. I wanna say the additional,
Well, this be coming out of, we do the transfer, be coming out of general.
so you're
And
gonna say
that would-
zero, so if you say no to this additional, then it's done for this month, and then it's gonna go on to next month.
But we're already in the red.
Yeah, it's in the red right now.
So we've already advertised for it. So
But
that's what the extra expense is essentially, right?
Yes, this is kind of my whole thing, yeah, because whenever the departments turn in additionals to me, like for this month, I had to send them to the paper to be advertised by October 29th, I believe it was. And then we already got the bill for what that was to advertise. And then
So-
they come to you guys approve, deny, and then I go to Gateway, and that's when I get the approval from.
So at this
Yep.
point, we might as well do the additional, so we would hopefully not have to do another additional if we short this fund, right?
Well, I guess what I was asking, this transfer would come out of general and the engineer's budget, since we're November, it would go back into general. And then next year, starting from scratch, is going to MVH.
Yep.
So this would essentially be a wash being this late in the year. If we do a transfer additional,
Yeah, if you do,
or whatever.
If you do the additional, yeah, the DLGF is gonna look at it as we're spending an extra 30,000, but you gotta think, you're not gonna spend 55,975, right there, so that's,
That just stays in general.
yeah,
Right.
in a way, it's a wash.
But it's good, I think it's a good habit to be doing, not be just approving additional spending, because you're approving it to be spent. So it's there, it could be spent, you've authorized it to be spent. It just makes more sense, you're not gonna use it. So I think you're saying we don't have to advertise transfers, so is there any harm then in just doing that right now, approving the transfer?
You can't do it, well, no, they've never done it before because the papers aren't done. I don't have the transfer paperwork.
can we do it if it's not listed on the,
Not usually it goes to the next month,
you know?
because I'd have to retype the one for you guys to sign, and, I don't have transfer paperwork to put that on the document.
So the thing
The
is,
transfer that comes to me that tells me where I'm gonna increase, where I'm gonna decrease, and that goes on the form. for
the
you guys.
transfer or the additional both come out of general, right?
Yes,
Either way.
yes,
We've already advertised the additional.
yes.
So right now, it is a wash
Mhm.
because we've already advertised it.
I know what you're saying, Corey, and
Mhm.
it makes sense, it's just, too little, too late at this point.
You may say, you know, if the county council, you know, adopts a resolution on transfers, and I think you have one, that department heads have to request those transfers. Obviously, they come in front of the council to present why they need the transfer. Maybe if you have a resolution on transfers that say anytime an additional is requested, the department head should identify any possible funds that could be used to transfer in lieu of the additional. And so I don't know how that still doesn't get you around the advertising part. You know, if it's possible to do the transfer instead of the additional, then obviously, you know, that would be preferred. But in most cases, there's never enough money to transfer. That's why you're doing the additional. In this particular case, you know, you've got money in the engineer's budget. That doesn't normally happen, but, you know, it's all gonna, the money that's appropriated for engineers is gonna revert to county general anyway.
Right. Either way, right now, the money's still coming out of the general fund.
Right.
And we've already advertised the additional.
Correct.
So at this point, have we not advertised? Then we do the transfer, but I don't see the harm in,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the additional.
I'll second.
John and Fred seconded. Any further discussion? Dennis, do you have something you want to say? You're kind of giving me a look. No? Okay.
Interesting to watch the interactions here.
If there's no further discussion, we'll call this to a vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is that a yes? Okay. Everyone said aye? Those opposed? Motion carries. Was that just concerning the dog pound, or did we discuss the council on aging as well?
That was
That
just
the
dog pound.
Okay, so the hospital, if I remember from what Rex sent me an email, the hospital gave the county a donation that's been sitting in a fund, and the commissioners want to use part of that donation to help the council on aging move. Is that correct, Stan?
Correct, because they wanted to do some work on the office over there. And so we wanted to use some of that money for painting, carpet, some minor remodeling, so that they could move the council on aging.
So that money will be used for this building or the Merit Center?
The mayor's, for the council on aging office.
And that,
Do you know how much approximately square footage that frees up in this building, Stan?
Oh, I don't have that number, I don't know. Rick would probably have a good idea.
Okay.
But I know it's gonna allow us, we're gonna have to do a little bit of office shuffling, so it's gonna allow us some office space to be able to reposition some of our offices here. Plus, it's gonna give them office space all on one floor and better traffic flow. And better traffic flow for pedestrians plus for the vehicles they use. So it's gonna be a good situation for council on aging. And also kind of allow some options for us here at the end.
Is the Merit Center a city building, or is that a county building, or neither?
It's a city building.
City.
But we have worked out an agreement with the Merit Center Board and with the city that we will have a 2-year lease for kind of a trade to manage I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit, Mayor.
I believe the Merit Center Board kind of worked a deal out with the county to allow Michelle to just kind of take phone calls at the Merit Center, because we don't really have any administrative staff at the Merit Center right now. Basically, we're just paying fees, not really taking much revenue in. So this allows someone to help with that position as administrative leader of the Merit Center. So I think they waived her lease for the first 2 years, I think, so that, I'm not sure the exact numbers.
So this is a $10,000 donation from money that was donated to us from the hospital.
Yeah, and then, so yeah, that will go right into her budget. She will be able to manage those revolving expenses.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Fred made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got Dennis.
Deal.
Fred and Dennis. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Keith?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Motion carries. Okay, commissioners, that was all that you had for additionals, correct?
I believe, I don't know that there was anything. Mark, do we have anything for that ERP money?
Yes, we do have a request, and it was on the agenda, which I was going to address concerning requesting approval and appropriation of funds from the ARPA funds for the WebEx phase 3 of the court communication system and judicial communication web or a virtual conferencing system. And so we have that to discuss.
Are we ready for him to go ahead and discuss that now? Okay, if you want to go ahead and discuss that.
So this is the proposal from CBTS, and I think, as you know, the county's completed 2 phases of the WebEx video conferencing system, which is a system that you have here in front of you in this building. It's also been installed, as you know, in Superior Court and Circuit Court, the jail, I think in the Public Defender's Office, and also to some extent in the Prosecutor's Office. Judge Kuklahan is usually, or Judge Conrad especially, is utilizing that system to great effect at the present time. That's cutting down on transfers of inmates, it's streamlining the process substantially. In fact, I think it's been utilized to such an extent that other counties are contacting us and Judge Conrad because they want to implement the same system. We got quotes to do phase 3 of that system, which should completely build it out, and that puts it in additional areas. And again, this is proposed to be funded with ARPA funds, which can be used to, one of the express purposes is to mitigate and cut down on interaction, having litigants come into the building to prevent the spread of COVID and limit in-person contact. This particular system fits that bill very well. And so we don't have any concerns whatsoever of utilizing ARPA funds for this project, because this is exactly the type of project those funds are designed to be used for. We also see that, and as we have seen, that it has provided substantial efficiencies in the process of administering court functions, prosecutor functions, jail functions. The build out is for the community corrections, small conference room, Superior Court probation conference room. Let's see what else. Detention centers, training room, service building, our State Board of Accounts room downstairs in the auxiliary conference room, and prosecutor's conference room, and then there's a prosecutor's web desk, WebEx desk. So anyway, that's within the scope of the proposal. I think the total price tag was around $315,000 or $317,000, and that's why it's advertised for $320,000 to be utilized out of the nearly $7 million, $6.8 million that the county's received for ARPA funds. You've already received that first installment, just under right around $3.4 million that you got last May, and the next installment will come then in May of 2022. And so we're still looking at potential projects to utilize those funds. As you know, Julie Marie's put together a form for individuals that are wanting to utilize those funds to submit, and that needs to be reviewed by a committee and then presented to the county council. But the commissioners believe that this system is working very well. I don't know, Dan, can you speak to that?
It's working extremely well. It's saving us a lot of transports down to DOC facilities, because the whole DOC is connected through WebEx. So instead of driving down to Madison, Indiana to pick up an inmate, bring them back here for a 15-minute hearing and driving them back, we call, send an email. The only person needs is a device with a camera and a microphone. It could be a cell phone, computer, it doesn't matter. As long as there's an email address to that device, we can connect. The judge is doing that with people for trials, for traffic trials. When they call in and say, well, I can't come in because I'm sick. Okay, do you have a smartphone? Yes. Okay, what's your email? He gives it to them. He sends an invitation right then and there. So if you miss this invitation, that's like missing court, and I'll file a warrant for your arrest. And they show up on the phone, and he holds traffic trials and stuff that way. It's been a huge benefit to us in the criminal justice side.
Who would be doing those transports if we weren't doing that? Would it take
us.
but does it take a deputy off the road, or is there
Correct,
something?
or a jailer out of the jail, or overtime, depending what the staffing levels are, yeah. But I mean, those Madison trips and stuff like that, and that's 10 hours of driving, basically. So it's a huge benefit. The attorneys can call the jail and say, hey, could you put so-and-so in video room 3 at 8 o'clock tonight? We can do that, and they can meet. It's been a blessing. Wells County's calling us now. They've had 2 hearings over in Wells County that we've set up and sent them invitation, and they don't even have to come and get them. So, and then what's nice to that, it saves them from transporting. What's nice to us is though, we're not pulling a healthy person out of our facility, taking them over to an unknown environment, and then bringing them back where we'd have to quarantine that person again for another 14 days. So that's the benefit with not having to let the inmates leave to other facilities, because we don't have to quarantine them again. So it's a huge benefit to us.
So Mark, that stuff was all the phase 1 and 2 stuff, which has
Yes.
been, I agree, really nice. So the 3, you said this would do.
It expands what's in the prosecutor's room. It adds community corrections. They're not connected now, so they don't have to drive from where they're at over constantly back and forth, and they'll be able to hold those things over WebEx. And
We
it also,
We don't own that building though, do we?
no, but it's on a long-term lease,
Okay,
and this equipment it's mobile, it's not
Okay.
permanent fixtures.
okay.
Do they use, similar to like Wells County and all that, they don't have our equipment, but they can use any computer so community corrections and all those, they could still be access to this. They wouldn't have to have the $300,000 of physical equipment.
Well, I think communication link, they're basically getting one hardware, which is it's not as big a screen as these, but it's a larger screen, so they can actually do some trainings with it and things like that, where it picks up the whole room. Because when you just do a mobile device, something like that, it just picks you up. So I think that's what they're putting in over there, because we're starting to hold a lot of meetings. Right now, there's a state board of accounts meeting for sheriffs going on over inmate trust and commissary accounts and they can record it, we can go back and watch it. So they're getting small amounts of hardware at those other places, because when you have the hardware, it's kind of hard to explain. There's a directory, and every piece of hardware has an address, and when I pull up my directory on my screen, I can just punch that room and it connects me to that room instantly. There's no invitations that you have to send out to anybody. It's almost like an instant message, direct connect type of thing. So that's why they go in with some of those places with hardware, just like in the courtrooms, the side courtrooms. They can put somebody in there, and an attorney can go in another room and they can talk. I mean, it's nice having the hardware for those type of situations.
What's the anticipated life of this equipment?
I suppose it's like anything, you have to do updates, and occasionally you have to update hardware, so I can't speak to that.
ask Mark, this is just an expansion on what we have now. There's not gonna be additional licensing fees and
Right.
it's just, it
Well,
would be
I think
covered
it's
by our
probably
standard.
licensing fees for the software
Right.
that goes with each device.
But we'd already be paying that.
We're already paying
Yeah.
that now.
We're paying for licenses that we don't even have them all filled up yet, because the only license you pay for is the person who's authorized to send invitations out and make meetings. They have to have a license. Jim Miller, Eric Beard, myself are the three over the sheriff's office that can do that. And they bought a package of licenses for a certain price, and we don't even have all those handed out yet. So there shouldn't be any more licensing fees for this project, because Mike Brown can assign from out of this pool to people that need that access.
Does this complete what we're talking about doing with WebEx then?
I believe so, yes.
Dennis?
Mark, I know you've done your homework on the use of ARPA funds for this project, but my concern is what additional costs are going to go along with this expansion of services or software connections, whatever? How much more is it going to cost us?
I can't answer that question. I don't know. I would think that, at least from what we've seen, utilizing this system has saved the county. Now, I mean, that's easy to say, I mean, but, you know, the county has taken initiatives and has a very good network, a very secure network. And I think especially with this, because of that secure network, then this has been able to work, and it's working very well. So I think anytime you can avoid having people driving to hearings in court, then there's going to be savings associated with that. And so that's what this is doing. Now, I mean, I'd have to have Mike Brown come down and talk more about, anticipated,
Well, there is a difference between
longevity, et cetera.
there is a difference between savings and cost. I realize that. I mean, savings are what you don't spend, but costs are what you do spend. And so I have a real concern about the expansion of, especially the technology budget. And I mean, it's just mushrooming. It's really going to explode, and someday, at some point in time, I think we're going to reach critical mass where we can't afford what we've got.
So my concern, I guess, is I'm big on technology. So to me, that technology, that's what we do. I'm all about that. But I want that 6.8 or $7 million to not get nickel and dimed away. I'm really worried about that. I mean, I think we did 600 last month, and this would be another 300,000. We'd be $1 million, gone of our 7 million, which we can either do a bunch of little projects like this, or we can use that 7 for something that I think is really transformational. I mean, we can do something big with it. I'm a big fan of the internet. You're trying to get fiber everywhere we can. Pairing up with the state, pairing up with this new federal infrastructure money, leveraging it. But what I don't want to do is get to that point where we actually can feasibly see what that looks like and only have $1 million left. So I think I'm just worried about it. So, I'm all for this. I just wonder if there's a way that we can fit it into, to me, it feels more like a capital expense budget. It's not going to have a transformational impact. I think we've gotten the transformational impact from phase 1 and 2. The marginal difference of having the equipment versus them having the link that we now have, I'm not sure if it's worth 300, especially from the ARPA funds.
There's no guarantee that the ARPA funds would be able to be used for a countywide internet. We don't know that, right? I mean,
They're allowed to be, yes. It's just, you mean feasibly if they can actually do it?
well,
It's the current, under item 4 of uses for ARPA funds is community expansion of water, sewer, infrastructure, and broadband communications.
so it does fall in there. Okay. That's why I kind of asked the question about anticipated life of that, is what does that do to our maintenance costs going forward? Because I do agree with Dennis, our IT budget has ballooned in the last 5 years. So that being said, as you mentioned, I mean, Dan has talked to, sending the man hours, the wear and tear on vehicles, the exposure to accidents for insurance reasons and all. There's a lot of savings from it too. Now, quantifying that is, is difficult to do.
Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, obviously, if the council's not inclined to approve an appropriation from ARPA funds, today on this request, I can certainly ask, IT and the departments that are involved in this project to see if there's a way to scale it back, if there's some, lesser version of this that could be done that would still provide, benefits, and have them present what those benefits are. I'm simply the messenger in terms of this is what the quote that they have, but I understand what you're saying. If you think that you want to table it and gather more information, maybe you approve it, maybe you don't. I don't know. That's up to you.
Where's this expand, this is an expansion of what we have. Where's this expand to again?
Superior Court?
Yeah, I'll just pass it around. I don't have
Go ahead.
copies.
I think you said prosecutor.
I sent out copies of this.
Did you?
Of that PowerPoint.
Oh, okay.
presentation. What it is,
Right here it
is
is.
to link more county departments to enable different departments to have interdepartmental meetings without having to travel around the county. It makes it so that, that hearings and things can transpire without people having to miss work to come to hearings. This is making the court system a lot safer and a lot more efficient.
We do already have that, right? So all this is doing is
Part of
adding
it.
equipment.
Have part of it, yes. We do not have the county fully on the WebEx system. It's taking phases to get it all in. Right now, it's in Superior Court. I believe the prosecutor's office has some in part of the prosecutor's office. And there is, I believe, is it the public defenders? Public defenders has it as well. We don't have it in community corrections. Superior Court is not up, Circuit Court is not up and running. There are other departments in the county that are not interconnected. This would be a county-wide system to enable people to not have to leave their desks, not lose time with their jobs by having to go somewhere else to go to a meeting. This connects everybody.
I mean, to me, I think the court should have it, so I understand that part of it. The rest of them, I mean, it's not like they don't have access. They just have to get an invite instead of having the actual equipment, right? So that's what you're adding.
But it's also, and I guess you're paying for some convenience too when you have that hardware, because it makes the meetings so much easier. It's just, the system is so nice. There's so much you can do with this system. It's much more secure than the Zooms and stuff. But it's just, like I said, it's just, I know for us, it saves so much time. It really does. And as far as other expenses, since we've been on this, I don't think we've incurred any more other costs associated with it once we purchase the licensing. And like I said, there's a bundle, and we still have more of those, but I don't think Mike's gonna have to expand on that. So I'm not real sure how much other hidden costs there are that will come up. Obviously, if you lose a piece of hardware, it breaks or something like that, you're gonna have to replace that, but I think that's stuff that can be picked up in individual departments' budgets.
How many administrator license come with that? Because now if we do that with the entire county, you'd have to have an administrator, I'd imagine, at every location.
Correct, and from what I understand, when Jim, Eric, and I, we just got put up on it and trained about 10 days ago. And I think Mike said he still has like 15 to 20 more licenses that are open. So I don't think we're gonna have to
That'd be
get any more
covered.
of those licenses, because if we're doing another 4 locations, that's basically 4 people that need that. So I don't think we're gonna have to purchase any more licenses. If my memory is correct, that we still have like 15 open licenses.
I think to understand the functionality of this, you kind of look back to where we're at. I mean, we have so many multiple locations. We've got community corrections out in their own building. We've got circuit court in the courthouse, along with the prosecutor. We've got Superior Court in its own building. We've got the public defender in this office, plus the jail. I mean, we have so many locations, and those courts and offices interact with each other constantly. So what we've had in the past was kind of a hodgepodge of systems between each court, and then we tried to use Zoom, We tried to use, what was it, Microsoft Teams. It was just a hodgepodge of sound systems, recording systems, communication systems. And so to get support for all those systems in itself presented a problem. So what this does, it does a lot of things. It creates a consistency. We've got one system that does all these things, records, communicates, lets us interact with not only with our own facilities and departments, but like the sheriff has said, it allows us to interact with anybody else, not only across the state, but, you know, if the judge or somebody has to do a deposition with somebody across the country, that can be done. And so the system itself, you know, it has a good consistency, but it also has good support. So what we're paying for with the licenses is the support from the company, both for training and support in the ongoing use. But the other thing with it, it's very expandable. It's expandable to the point where it could become our phone system if we wanted it to. I mean, it's just a good system, and it's a good way for our departments to interact with each other safely and efficiently. And we've got good people that are using it, you know, between the sheriff and the prosecutor and the judges. So, you know, by having this ARPA money available for the equipment, I don't know, to answer Dennis's questions, if that's going to create any significant additional cost for support and licensing. You know, that's a good question. Like Mark said, we have to kind of talk to Mike Brown and see what his thoughts are there. But to be able to have this available is just a big bonus.
Dennis?
I think.
Dennis?
Mark, we have interlocal agreements between various county entities by way of supporting county networks. And so is there a means by which the users of this new system, as it expands, can they help support the general fund by way of, I know a lot of these departments have revenue sources. I mean, they're sitting on money that can be used to support what we're providing. Is there any way we can get a payback on it from the people that are going to use it?
That would depend on each department and what other funds they might have available. So I don't know if the prosecutor's office would have funds available that are not county general funds, that are user fees that they could use to help support. That's something we'd have to look into. Same thing for community corrections. They're funded primarily from the grant to community corrections. I would think they would have to put a line item in their budget and increase their budget and see if that's possible. I don't know.
I would look on it as an intra-local agreement.
Well, also though, we've kind of discussed in the past too, you know, again, I think this is a very good idea, having the county and, you know, Decatur, Bern, Geneva, Monroe, we're all on the same system. But, you know, the county though, the lion's share of the financial support of all the IT. And I know we get a little bit of money from those other entities, but I do think we need to explore a little more support from the cities and towns in our county. You know, I think Julie, you and I, we've talked about that before, and I think you even provided some information on that possibly. So it's because we're taking on some massive costs and honestly some big payrolls for that. So I think we have to seriously look at, you know, talking with Decatur, Bern, Geneva, Monroe. So.
Yeah, we have the interlocals with them now just to be on the network and have the security that the network has. This particular WebEx, there's no WebEx plan for Decatur, Bern, Monroe. WebEx is not proposed for that, but it could be. But I think you're asking about the cost.
The general IT.
The overall IT costs.
I do wonder though, Dennis, it's an interesting idea. I wonder if, you know, some of the other cities don't already have some kind of web stuff like this, and if they don't, maybe they're interested in going together and making it more of a, you know, doing it together, it's gonna cost all of us less if we're all on the same page together. So, you know, I mean, expanding it out to them and saying, what if you guys get equipment too? Can we get a better deal for all buying together at one time? You know, unless they already have it, but if they don't,
I don't
That's a
believe they have
possibility.
WebEx, certainly.
You guys have it, Dan? WebEx?
So county put us on Microsoft Teams because at that time they said that was the safest, best thing out there. So through the county, we have Microsoft Teams. They have expanded WebEx to the Riverside Center for whether it be a big BCA meeting, something like that. We just bought I think it was like $75,000. We bought a portable WebEx system for the Riverside Center for meetings.
But I guess I wonder if overall we can't look into something like that, or maybe scaling this down a little bit. I think circuit court would be the primary one. That if they don't have it, they probably should. Other than that, I mean, 300,000 seems like kind of a lot for, I mean, we already have the benefit. You have the links. Now it's just, do you want the actual equipment there to make it a little bit easier? So we've got the lion's share of the benefit already. So, but if there's a way to scale it down, or there's a way to find it from some of this unused money that we're talking about somewhere, or maybe there's an account that's like, you know, I don't know if like there's 4D funds that can be used that we never even thought of, or, you know, different things like that that are just sitting there that we can't get to. Maybe we can use, then I could see the value of it, but I hate taking that much out of the ARPA stuff. I just feel like we're limiting ourselves pretty quickly.
Mark, what did the 600,000 buy us last month?
That was
That
the
was the
generator and
Generator, chillers.
the chiller.
Okay. Okay.
But understand, before you guys vote on this, understand that Bree just told me that even with the deductions made for the HVAC system and for the electric generator that you all voted to approve last month, we still have approximately $6 million in ARPA funds that we can spend. $300,020 to spend on a system that literally is the future of court systems in this state. More and more states are becoming WebEx empowered and running their counties that way. Why wouldn't you take advantage of the opportunity to pay for a system with essentially free money now, rather than wait until 2024 when the money is gone, we can't spend it anymore, and now we need it because it's mandated by the state.
Mhm. And the price would, I assume, be
Price
higher.
probably won't go down.
Yeah. I know what you're saying, Corey.
I'm just worried we're gonna have another one. I mean, we're already $1 million gone. I mean, 300,000, I realize it's not a huge amount, but we're $1 million down in 2 months already. And there's going to be lots more good.
I like the
projects.
idea of being locked down and we're already the premier go-to with Judge Conrad is getting a lot of attention and, you know, questions asked and how are you doing this? This is great. And I think it'd be beneficial to have everything. Our county would be the pillar and, you know, ready to move and go. Like we said, the cost isn't going to go down by any means.
But in 2024, what technology advances are there going to be where WebEx is going to be ancient in 3
Well,
years?
you could look at anything with that.
Say that, yeah, forever.
iPads could be gone. We're gonna have to buy new iPads. You know, it just, where do you go from there though?
I'm sorry you threw me when you said 600, because that was two projects together, so I was trying to remember what we had 600 on, but yeah, those were the two separate projects.
Stan?
I guess I would tend very much to agree with Julie Marie and Mark that this is a very appropriate way to spend this money. As we look at this fund, the parameters that they've established for this fund are fairly narrow. So the projects that we're going to be able to do are going to be limited. And like Mark said, this is a project that fits those parameters, just mirrors the parameters on this fund. So if you would intend to take money out of our county budget or county funds, rather than take this money, which has a limited time frame and limited parameters on how to spend it, I guess to me this just seems very appropriate. And just to add to our county efficiency and consistency within our legal system. And that is a primary function of county government, is to provide a support legal system, and that's what we're doing.
Honestly, I don't disagree. I don't think anybody up here necessarily does. Just having some open conversation about it to see, what the possibilities, I think it's a valid concern what Dennis brought up. I'm, thinking the same thing myself. So some open conversation, I don't think is bad about it, and it's things to consider going forward. But, I agree. This is money that's not coming from our county taxes.
Is there any other large projects on the horizon that commissioners know about?
No other large projects. Part of the thing that we're doing is trying to figure out the parameters. Well, when I say we, I use that term loosely because it's Mark and Julie Marie that are the we in that one. But the other thing, and this comes as a recommendation not only from the commissioners, but from the technology committee that brings the recommendation forward, which, I've talked about. John has been sitting in with us and is probably familiar too with, the discussions we have. So this is not an offhanded recommendation. This is a recommendation that has come with many discussions through the technology commission, or technology committee, and then the commissioners, as we presented to you. So it's not an offhanded recommendation.
What other projects are you thinking might be used with this money?
I'm a big fan of the internet. I think if that's what you're asking. I mean,
I'm asking anybody, yes, so, yeah.
you're looking at me, sorry. Yeah, to me, I feel like, I look at, I'm gonna call it balancing the scales between the big cities and the small cities. You've got, if we want to compete, we have an opportunity in front of us, and that's for high-paying jobs that are actually being done remotely nowadays, where we can have jobs that normally would have been in the big cities happening here. I've used my dad as an example. I mean, he sells hospital equipment for all of North America, and he does it from his basement in Bern. Works for Philips, and it's something that you couldn't do without good internet. You just can't do that. And our rural residents particularly, they just don't have access to good internet. It's not an option. So they either need to live in the city or they don't have those choices. So to me, I'm like, hey, this is a chance for small towns to make a bit of a comeback and have an opportunity for people to live here and have high-paying jobs, but they've got to have the access to the internet.
Do we have any idea what the cost would be?
That's what I want to know, because I don't think $7 million is going to do it. I don't think it will, but I think if we can leverage with what the state's doing and with what federal just passed, like, there's a real chance that we could do it, but we're going to need a penny of it, I think. So I don't know if we can get some kind of feasibility study to start to see what that would look like, get some actual numbers in front of us so that we know, but I think it's going to take everything, but it would be really a good opportunity for our people to have that.
Well, I will say, and this is just, not that I know anything about it, honestly, but I've been dealing with internet at my house, and I was just speaking to a technician that was out there over the weekend. And for example, his company won a government contract, and they need to put 100 megahertz in these different locations. And some of it's within our county, and as far as I know, we haven't paid for any of that. So I do think we need to make sure that we're, one of the questions I was going to ask after going through all the emails and stuff prior to this meeting is, we've discussed that type of thing and piggybacking, with the state, but right now we haven't designated anybody to keep track of that, to try to be involved in any of it. And it's something that we should do as a county. So I do think our county has led the way on a few things. And so we need to be on board with them, have somebody involved in that so we can be at the forefront and can be, Tony and Bree and his department have done a good job applying for things and stuff like that. So we need to continue that along this and anything else for that matter. So
Are there other projects besides that one that you're talking about the broadband internet, that we could?
I think water and sewage are the only other two real infrastructure ones that we can do. Other than that, it's a lot of small things like this, basically.
Yeah, I'd hate to put all that money into one project too. Because like without getting that backup generator, if we would lose power here, then all the internet's down anyhow. So it will take some smaller projects, and
And it may be,
we're eating it away at it, obviously.
it may be that we
need
say
to.
we want $1 million for
Yeah.
small projects and, whatever, but
Yeah, I get it.
I don't want to lose our options.
Dennis?
I look at free money as the best good for the common good. And I would like to see a list of those things that are projected by way of cost, where you want to spend this money without prioritizing, but to get a visual picture of what we can do with the money if we allocate it across the board of common good. And I'm in agreement. I think we ought to look at this $1 million that we're wanting to spend specifically for one cost center. And I think we need to be a little more circumspect than what we are.
So would it be possible to not necessarily vote yes or no per se, but basically send it back and say, can we find a couple of scaled down options, and or is there anywhere else that we can use money that's, so specific we haven't been able to use it in the past, that we can use that to unlock this?
Yeah, I mean, with the proposal that's in front of you now, if you could table it, I believe, and then we could ask if there's a way to pare down this particular project. We can ask the questions that you asked about what is the licensing cost going to be going forward as a whole? Where is that money going to come from? Also,
Future maintenance costs.
future maintenance cost, how much future maintenance cost would be associated to this phase 3. So we can ask all of those questions and bring those back, I would think, at your next meeting. And then you could consider this project up or down. But the broader question, in terms of what can you do for expansion of broadband internet in the county? I know, are you talking about community fiber? Do you have community fiber solutions or Watch TV?
Watch.
Okay, so that's part of community fiber, and we have had discussions with them. They did get a large federal grant to expand broadband in rural communities. I spoke with a couple of guys at Community Fiber about a project between Community Fiber and Adams County for that reason. And they, quite honestly, they have great interest in that, and that's a meeting that we need to get together and have. I think Colton Bickle, I've talked to him at Economic Development. They were thinking along the same lines. So I think it's going to take everybody getting together on that to see what sort of public-private agreement might be possible, because you would have to, I agree, you'd have to leverage. I don't think you're going to have enough money to do it, but I think you certainly would have enough money to leverage a private,
Once we kind of have
public project.
we can kind of develop a plan too, and then get the state involved and be at the forefront of applying for those grants. Because there'll be grants out there for it, we know that. I mean,
Was that broken out enough where we could still apply it to, was it Circuit?
I think so. I don't know. I'd have to ask them to break out, what does it cost a la carte? What does it cost for this installation? Can that be pared back? What does it cost for this installation? Can that be pared back?
I think
What we have now is just a one price tag for everything. So I would have to ask them to break it out.
Bare minimum, I think the courts should be completely covered and secured. And
And then your second question is whether or not we can find anywhere else, untapped money that we can't seem to access, if there's any that we can use, instead of using ARPA funds. I know we have a lot of funds out there that are building up balances that we just can't ever figure out how to use them. And if we can find a couple of those.
that's something I've already stated I'm gonna work on, but some of it's very restricted, so.
I know.
But I agree with Dennis in terms of you have to look at the ARPA funds that have been allocated to Adams County, which are substantial, and take your time, put thought into it. What type of project will have the broadest public impact for everybody and impact and benefit Adams County as much as possible as a whole, economically, technology-wise. I think technology is probably at the top of the list, is having the ability to provide the greatest impact for everybody. And just the way work is being conducted today. As we know, you can't swing a dead cat and find somebody that's not working from home now. And that's just the way it is. They're not going back to work.
I will say.
Well, they're not going back to the office. They're working from home, and that's.
I will say, Dan and I had a conversation yesterday about what attracts people and business to communities. And, you know, with Dan, it's schools and parks and
Schools, parks, trails.
trails and things of that nature. And something like this is also, that's something you can advertise, honestly, and would be attractive for people to live, for businesses to come to. So that's stuff we have to look at and consider.
Yes, Dan?
I totally agree with what Corey said about broadband throughout the county. The city did do a feasibility study, and I think I passed the info on to the commissioners at one time about the group that we used. I would love to see the city and county work together on this and try to get one big study done. One thing that we can start by doing is having the residents do the Indiana Farm Bureau speed test. So we have broadband maps that cover the state. They're just like clouds, and it looks like people have correct speeds, but they really don't.
Yeah.
The state's there's a state broadband team that's trying to get actual data of what the speed tests are around your area. It may show that you have 25 megs down, out west of town, but you really don't. If you can go on your computers and do this test, I think it's infb.org/speed test. It's actually going to put it on the map and it'll show your speeds. And this goes right to the state broadband team, so that they know who actually has what speeds all in the state. This is the first thing to trying to get the grant money, because the grant money is only for unserved or underserved, right? So if those old maps show that Craigville or, east of Craigville, just in Adams County has the right speed, then you're not going to be able to use that grant money there. There's tons and tons of money in broadband right now, but everyone's trying to figure out what do we have to do to get it. So this test, if we can get more people to take this test in the county, it'll show what our actual speeds are, and we'll have a better chance of getting some of that grant money.
That's where honestly, we have to get a campaign out there to get that information out.
Right.
So people are doing it.
And exactly what you're saying about leveraging the money, you could use some of your money to go after this grant money. So the ARPA funds, instead of using $5 million of your ARPA funds, you might be able to use it for a 20% match towards state money. So I would love to see the city and county work together on this.
Stan?
I certainly don't disagree with that, but I guess it kind of brings me back to try and focus on what are the primary responsibilities of county government. To me, we have primary responsibilities to provide for the safety, the health, and the infrastructure as far as roads and buildings. Number one on that, I think, is safety. And what this recommendation is doing is building the integrity of our sheriff's department and our court system that provide the safety in our county. So to me, that's a core responsibility, is supporting the sheriff's department, the court system, the probation department, community corrections. That's a very core responsibility. I don't disagree that we can, if possible, we can help to build the integrity of broadband availability in the county, but is that our core responsibility? I think our sheriff's department and court system are a core responsibility. So I think we need to look at that first to make sure that that is intact, workable, strong integrity, and as efficient as possible. So I don't disagree with the broadband, and I've been working too through the Economic Development Commission to, look at ways to improve quality of life through parks, housing, and broadband. Those are great things to offer as quality of life, but I kind of come back to a focus on what is the pure responsibility of county government. And so, I think this is important. I think it's going to work to continue to connect all of our departments within the court system and the sheriff's department. So I think this is important, and like I said, I strongly recommend approving this.
Okay, council, what direction do we want Mark to go?
I think we need to have him come back with additional information.
Specifically.
scope of project, alternatives to spending, and how much we want to allocate to each section or project, if you will. I think it's just.
You have to say yes or no.
I'm sorry?
I think you guys have to say yes or no to this additional. And then it would have to be re-advertised next month. Because this was sent to the public, this was advertised to the public for this meeting, so you have to say yes or no. And then if you want, they would have to do a new additional, re-advertise it for next month or next year.
I would move that we deny the request.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I mean, if we have to do it that way, I guess, then I'll second it. I mean, I just want more information. If we can table, that'd be great, but if we're saying we can't do that, then we'll do it this way.
Well,
But,
we are tabling it by doing that, but,
Yeah.
I mean,
so I think to me, the big questions is alternative scopes, just so we know we can make a little more informed decision. Is there anywhere else that we can unlock to pay for this from? And then the third question you had was, if there's any ongoing costs that we need to be aware of.
Okay, this is just for the computer hardware, the 320,000 of the ARPA funds.
Yep, so I'll second that then.
Okay, I have a motion from Dennis, a second from Corey. Any further discussion? Brad, do you have anything else you want to say?
no, not right now.
Okay.
The one thing I would say is, if you're gonna publish something in the paper though, publish what Dan said about that website for the speed test.
Okay.
Beginning of the campaign. So, but Eric, if you have to talk to Dan to find out what that is, please do.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and put this to a vote. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
It's 3-2 then, right?
No, it was unanimous.
Unanimous? Oh,
Yes.
Okay, 5-0, tie.
Mark, did you, or maybe Julie Marie, concerning the rest of the ARPA funds, the consulting fees of 25,000? Do you want to discuss that at all?
I'm sorry, which one is that?
The ARP funds for the additional.
This is the 320.
Because last month we approved 25,000, and then this month you're asking for another 25,000.
Request, using my way you'll discuss. So if you have to go discuss this next meeting, right, in December?
Not necessarily unless they bring it back
They
to
have
us.
to they're gonna have to re-advertise.
Okay.
I think we need to try to get some homework done before we advertise to see, not that it can't be discussed, but
So you don't have to re-advertise.
so we don't have to re-advertise until we're ready to re-advertise.
This was the proposed additional appropriation and approval of spending or using ARPA funds for paying qualifying costs incurred by the county for payroll and benefits due to employees for the portion of employees' time dedicated to responding to the proper administration, management, and use of ARP funds related to the county's response to the COVID public health emergency in accordance with the terms of the Adams County Fiscal Recovery Plan. Such appropriation shall be in addition to all other appropriations provided for the existing budget, which will continue in effect until completion of the described processes. This would be for any additional cost incurred by the county for employees that are dedicating their time just to ARPA functions, and that way it's not being paid out of the county general. It would be paid out of ARPA funds. So I don't anticipate that you're going to spend that much, but need to appropriate something to try to recapture those costs, and that's the purpose of this resolution.
So what's the difference between the two line items? Because last month it was 31,100 for 25,000, and now this month it's 38,300 for 25,000. What's the difference between the line items?
The difference would be the last month's, I believe, was to pay for outside contractors, outside, like accounting, legal, engineering. We're not gonna have any engineering that I can think of, but this would be for your actual employees incurring additional time, would pay for those costs.
So like come out of the ARPA funds versus the general fund.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Fred made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second.
John? Sure.
What is the amount, Mark? I didn't hear that.
25,000.
25,000.
25,000?
Yes.
Yeah, it's an appropriation of 25,000 to, just appropriates funds that can be used for that purpose. It doesn't mean you're gonna spend 25,000. I don't expect that you will, but up to 25,000.
And that's just to the end of the year too, right?
No, this would be until all of ARPA funds are expended, so that'll go on for, a couple of years.
2 years.
Yeah, once you put it in the spending plan, that's in the plan. That's for the life of the use of those funds until those funds have to be spent.
Okay, so we're approving a resolution. Is that what you're saying, Mark?
Yes,
Okay, and then that covers this additional.
yes.
Fred, are you still okay with that? Okay, and John? Is that you both first and second in it? Okay. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks.
I know we can pay for it.
Ourselves.
Is there anything tangible we can do to start looking into some of the feasibilities and all that? I mean, I don't know if that can get paid out of some of those fees, or we just sort of tap someone, say.
And that'd
"I'm in
be
charge of
up
this,"
to the commissioners to
to investigate
determine
it.
what they want to do. But I don't know if I'd want to put all of
Eggs in one
every
basket, no,
dollar
that's
that
not what
we're
it
getting.
costs.
Yeah.
No, we need to take care of other things, like some of the stuff, this building needed chillers.
Yeah.
It had to be fixed, and,
We had to have a generator. I mean,
all that stuff is,
But that's where last month I wanted to create a group, and I didn't get any feedback from any council members that they were interested in serving on that.
yeah, but it'd still start from the commissioners.
They write the plan, but the county and the council, the commissioners and the council should be working together.
Mm-hmm.
Put them in order that you took.
Right.
Yeah, because in the minutes, I think we want to follow the order in which they.
Okay, next on the agenda is Shannon.
The information that you guys asked me to get last month for fringe benefits for the competitive, market for Golden Meadows, I was not able to obtain. I had a lot of other stuff going on, so I'm not ready today.
Okay. Did we, and Tony's not here, last month we had asked, oh, Mark is though, we had asked to put the hospital on our agenda to discuss, they were supposed to come back with us, or to us concerning, what was it?
somebody attending their meetings
Yes.
for the council.
And is someone from the hospital here to discuss that with us? They were gonna report back to us.
Neither one. Is that a surprise?
I'll just keep it on the agenda, do it again next month.
Okay,
Bring it up until they answer.
so we're gonna put them back on the agenda for next month.
I would.
Okay, Bree, can you make sure that they're on the agenda for next month?
That's just to see if they-
Yeah.
I'd like a council member to attend their board meeting.
Mark, you have additional,
I just wanted to make sure we get these resolutions in the correct order.
okay,
I think the order of which you took them in the minutes, so we get the numbers correct. Otherwise, it's gonna look out of order. So we'll make sure we get the numbers here. What's the very next number for the council, Bree?
Okay, so
we just
we're
did
gonna,
28.
we're changing that. We're gonna do the consulting fees is 26. And then what are you doing next?
Well, what was the first one that they approved? Was that the,
The one you just did. They hadn't talked about meeting. I put 26 on meeting dates, but they haven't talked about it yet.
right, okay, so we'll change that
We'll
one.
change that. So 26 will be consulting fees. And then what's the next one you're gonna talk about?
I thought the first one was animal shelter.
We haven't done that one yet. So you want that one to be 27?
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, they approved the animal shelter.
Yeah.
That was approved, so that we need to show that one, I think is the first number.
So up whenever they talked about the additional?
Yeah, I'm trying to put in order all the additionals that we talked about and so that we get all of our resolution numbers correct. I think the first one was animal shelter.
Okay, so maybe animal shelter 26.
Did you send us the animal shelter resolution?
I think Julie Marie did.
I did.
You did?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so 26 is animal shelter.
All right, hang on, let me find it here.
And then 27 will be the consulting fees.
I'm just gonna write it down.
29,000.
Yeah.
Getting confusing.
27 was consulting.
Yep.
Okay,
And then, what do you have another one?
I've got the meeting dates.
Okay, so meeting.
That one's, we're not gonna discuss that today.
Oh, you're not?
No,
But I thought we were
Okay.
gonna discuss and then table it.
no. I told Tony we're not discussing it, so that just came yesterday.
And he told me we were discussing it, but you guys could discuss it at the table is what he told me to do and what he has in the minutes.
But we won't have a resolution if they're not gonna, if all they're gonna do is discuss it, I won't bother giving it a number.
Yeah, we're gonna wait till next month.
Okay, so we just got 26 on animal shelter, which was approved, and 27 on consulting fees, which was approved. So those are the only two resolutions that we don't show adopted. And those will, I want those to match in the order in which you took them in the minutes. So we'll get that done here. I think that's it.
Mark,
Yes?
you gonna address the sewer district issue today?
I don't think so. I think we've already touched on it. We can come back. Unless you want to talk about sewer district.
Oh,
Do
very
we need
bad
a,
here.
do we need a heads up or something?
I don't know. Barry, you want to tell them what's going on?
Just that we was rejected on the second 5 million or delayed for hopefully another year. So we're trying to itemize out what projects we can do with the money we have. Estimated, we're early in the stages, we're estimating probably borrowing $1.5 million in ballpark area. We got 5 million from the SWIFT grant. We're looking at about 180 homes. I know the city of Decatur emphasized a little bit to us that it would be a very much appreciative that we go out and do one phase of this project, which is just out south of town. And then we would be going out to Andrews Addition on the other phase, the other project out that way. We may have to cut parts and pieces out of it. There's each intersection, there's 15 houses down the road. When we went out there, we may have to cut more of them out. We don't know till we get to bid date, but I think really what we wanted to talk about a little bit, and it sounds like maybe going some other directions, but in case we needed some more money, since this money is earmarked water, sewer, and broadband, the possibility that we may have to come and say, okay, we can do all the project, we may need 100,000, we may need $1 million. I have no idea. I'm just throwing, I have no means of knowing until we get the bid date. So,
In your 100,000 or $1 million, is that gonna be on the loan program like we currently do, or is that gonna be allocated to
we
you?
would need, we're gonna pay you back your loan money. That, we haven't even gotten any yet. I've been holding the bills up to the engineer right now. I haven't borrowed any. You will be getting it back as soon as we close. What, 30 to 45 days after we close, Mark, we'll write the check to whatever we borrow out of the rainy day fund. That is a given. That, I told the commissioners that here a few weeks ago.
Do we have continuing engineering costs?
We have, yeah, engineering costs, that was what that was for, to be ready so we can bid, because SWIFT has still got a very tight deadline on us. Even though they delayed it like 4 or 5 months till they actually handed the money out, they still are telling us March or April 1st. They may give us to June 1st. So they delayed it 4 or 5 months and only delayed us getting ready to be shovel ready 2 months. So they really putting us in a bind. So we're just, we've put $20 million into the county, not counting what all the homes paid to hook up. That's what infrastructure we put into the ground to date, or in that ballpark, and it might be 19 too, and it might be 21, but we have done a lot. I can tell you, I got 700 homes for $20 million. You're talking about the broadband going out and getting everybody in the county. That's going to be a big chunk to bite, to get the whole county. I'm just sitting there thinking out loud. I go, $7 million won't go a real long ways on that. I'm not picking on you, Corey, but you know me, but common sense tells me that's probably a $200 million project, putting broadband in, and that, I'm just throwing a dart in the air on that, but it's a good idea. But we do need building too. We need the homes. Decatur's pretty full with their housing additions, or don't have much, and we are making I guess I'm making a ploy for the sewer district. We are creating a lot of building areas for the county, and we may not need anything. We may.
Things have to go to bid. Can you get us some numbers though? Right now.
We will once we bid and after the first of the year. I'm hoping to bid in January, and we have to close by June, or probably May. But it is that I am coming here with my hand out, and that we possibly, we just don't know. We got, we're going to borrow $1.5 million more than likely. If we could keep the borrowing part down, we can keep that $93 a month rate down, because we don't want to drive the county's bills to $110. I don't, the board that you guys all appointed and the commissioners, they don't want to do that either, So the bottom line to it is, the less we borrow, the longer we can keep our rates at we are. We're helping Decatur out. Decatur is very appreciative of what we're doing to help them. They, they've said it in their board works meeting, I think, a couple weeks ago. They're very much in favor of the sewer district doing what we're doing. So I guess I'm begging, but yet not knowing what we need to beg for. Keep it on your.
Any funds that the county would commit from ARPA dollars to go towards sewer infrastructure would enable the district then to borrow less money to do the next project, which then rolls over into the next project, which lets them, get engineering done to go to do the next project. The way these projects work, you have to have the engineering done and be ready to go to bid. Otherwise, you don't get the money. And so it's,
You guys have been great for us on that.
Absolutely. And the county council's willingness to allow and loan the $500,000 out of rainy day fund as a line of credit has been fantastic. That's enabled the district to get the engineering done, to submit the preliminary engineering reports to SRF, and to get in the grant cycle and say we're ready to go. And that's paid off, because they've come back now Last year, they got $8 million in forgivable loan. This year, $5 million. And so that enables these projects to move. And when the sewer district first started, we thought that there would be a project, and then there would be a gap for a year or so, and then maybe another small project. But the way it's happened, because of the funds that the district has been able to utilize from the county, then these projects are now going staggered, and it's going pretty quick. And the money is available now, as you can see. That may not last forever, but you can't, on the news, you watch the news, they're turning loose all kinds of infrastructure money.
You're more alluding to the fact, though, the money that the district is using from the county has allowed us to keep using money from the state.
Correct. It enables us to leverage the money that we're getting from the state and the federal government. And so that leveraging is allowing us to do projects much quicker than we anticipated.
Right.
That brings people online, that creates development opportunities, and people want to build homes. Well, sewer's right there. I mean, that's what's happening. And so we see now that when we go out and run sewer line down a road that, it doesn't have the ability, people would have to put in very expensive septic systems if they even can, if the soil were perfect. Now they have the opportunity to connect to the district. And it's right there.
We got one down south. The homeowner's paying to run a half a mile of line just to get the sewer so he can build a new home. He's paying that himself.
All the stuff is engineered for expansion, I assume, right? I mean,
Yes.
knowing that we're gonna keep going,
Yeah, that's
whether that's tomorrow or 10 years from now, but,
Right.
okay.
Mark, this is all related to county master plan. Have we done any more on that?
That's run by the plan commission. So I know they updated their comprehensive plan. Is that what you're talking about? I think they did update that a year or so ago. But we're trying to, the sewer district, the money that's available to the sewer district to do these projects is earmarked for septic elimination. It is not new development. Okay, so the sewer district has to identify areas that have existing homes that have been there for a period of time, that have old systems that either have failed or are likely to fail, or, and they don't have any other reasonable alternatives if they do fail. And so that's what that money is to be used for. But the collateral effect of it is when you go out with new sewer lines and pick up these small communities that have, no alternatives for septic systems, then you see development occur upon those lines.
It's like because you got a main through there.
Right. And so that's the other effect. And that's the economic development effect of what's happening. And so we're very appreciative of the county's partnership with the sewer district. It's paying off, like Barry said. We've got approximately $20 million in capital investment that's already been, it will be done here as soon as this project 3 is done.
And you're talking about that 20 million, just to be clear, is actually state funds given, that's not Adams County tax dollar money,
No,
that's
there's
state
no
money.
tax dollar.
Yes.
Well,
I just want that to be clear.
Borrowed money.
That's between grant and borrowed money.
Yeah.
And the borrowed money is really about 25% of the total. The rest of it has been grant funds for economic development and for septic elimination is what it really is.
Again, just to, I guess,
It's kind of a
do that
no-brainer
voice,
to help the county.
let's say this, state the obvious, which I hope is obvious, is we're staying ahead with the planning and engineering, which allows us to use state money.
Yes.
We don't want $110, $120 a month bills for anywhere bills. But we gotta keep people living in their homes because they're being condemned by state law rules that they are dumping sewage into the ditches. So we're doing the least, the lesser of two evils. We're trying to get bigger areas. We can't never go down every road. There's no way.
Well, we just wanted to give you an update and we'll see kind of how the numbers come in and we'll be back. We just received information just a couple of weeks ago from Swift, so.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep,
Thank you,
thanks.
Barry. Jeremy, let's go ahead and, Jeremy does not want to ask us for any money.
You don't need anything.
On average,
Why are you here, Jeremy?
I was told that everything was going smoothly, and so I got to hear a little bit about your WebEx and the ARPA stuff. But last time I was in front of you, I told you I needed to hire somebody for our victim advocate position. I was really unsure of what we were going to do. And I'm here to introduce Alexa to you, but I also want to call Shannon out for this because I was floating with no resumes, putting it in the newspaper, putting it on Facebook, didn't do much. Shannon sends me 12 or 13 really good resumes. I don't know where she got them. But I just wanted to let you guys know that she was instrumental. When I was talking to Jody, my office manager, about the resumes that were trickling in, we were in a, oh crap kind of a moment. And then Shannon's email came and it was huge. And she said, she actually told me today she had about 80. So she took the time to whittle them down and they were all extremely, qualified individuals. Fortunately, we were able to find Alexa Reed. She's from Wells County. She has her bachelor's degree in psychology, a minor in criminal justice. She's worked at Helping Hands in Bluffton now for 10 years. So this is quite a bit right up her alley, but I just want to come over and say thanks and let you know that it worked out. Because I know when I was here last time, I was rather unsure. I promised her she wouldn't have to talk a lot, so if you make her, I'm going to pay dearly, so please don't do that to me. But no, I didn't want anything, just wanted to come up and say thanks and let you know where things stand. So she's a huge part of our office. If you're familiar with our system, you know that a victim advocate can make or break how we serve people. So she's working out really well. So thank you, guys.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Hopefully you have broad shoulders for that position.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes, for sure.
Definitely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Shannon.
Thank you.
Come back anytime if you don't want anything.
Yeah, if I don't want anything. All right.
Before we move on, Mayor, do you have, you're here today, usually you're not here. Do you have something that you want to talk to the council about?
Nope.
Nope?
Nope.
Just coming to say
I
hi.
actually had nobody in the schedule. Been wanting to come for a while.
Okay, thank you for coming. All right, Julie Marie, do you have?
Good morning, everyone. Got a couple things for you to consider this morning. First thing, we received a letter from Kristen D., the library director down in Vern. She's proposing the appointment of Ted Rich to serve on the library board down in Vern. He is a Vern resident, which makes him eligible. And she indicated that he would be an excellent addition to their library board and would request that the council approve his appointment. So I put that to you for your consideration and vote.
Like motion to approve.
Second.
Fred and Keith? Made a motion? Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
What's his last name?
Oh.
Or something.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Rich?
Rich.
Is it Rich?
Rich.
His name is Ted Rich.
Ted Rich, okay. That's a 4-year term, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
If I can get you to write your name there and sign there on both copies. Thank you. Next, small matter. The Baker Tilly bill came in. We contracted with them on an hourly rate. It was appropriated to spend $15,000, but their final bill came in a little bit more than that. You could do one of two things. You could defer this to the commissioners and ask that it come out of their consultation fee budget, or you could go through the process of asking for the appropriation and doing the advertisement. That would obviously delay them getting paid. It's entirely up to you. I don't have the authorization to simply tell the auditors what to do, so I need to ask you how you'd like to handle that.
We talked before, it seems like the simplest thing is to defer to the commissioners if they would be willing to. All right.
How much
How
over
much
was
is
it?
in the?
I think that's a county initiative. I think the county council should pay for that. I don't think it should be deferred to the commissioners at all.
How much over
We don't have a
was it?
line item though for it, but the
Well-
commissioners
The commissioners
do.
have a line item for consultation, so it would go ahead and come out of theirs then. The total bill they sent us was $2,962.50, but they were kind enough to discount that for courtesy to $875.35. So that's what needs to be paid.
Well, the other question, I was thinking that their original contract said it was hourly, but not to exceed 15,000.
It simply said hourly.
Because if it did say not to exceed, which I don't know why I'm thinking that, then
It
that's
did
kind of their
not say
problem.
not to exceed, no, I have the contract, it didn't say not to exceed. it was the county council that made the decision that they would budget and appropriate only $15,000 for it. So it's now up to you to make the decision as to whether or not to appropriate more funds or how to get it paid.
That's pretty good.
Okay, so the commissioner line item is at 0.
We're not appropriating money.
For consulting? Oh, is it?
So I thought it was at,
2,500 budgeted, and then we transferred it in 3,810, and we paid out 6,310. So we're at 0.
Oh dear.
I hope we're done.
Yeah, conceptually, you're correct. I mean, honestly, conceptually speaking.
Yeah, I just think
I
we
guess we're gonna have to do revocation.
No,
You see the hourly rates for $200 for an associate?
Mhm. So it sounds like we need to appropriate the money.
Yes, we're gonna have to appropriate the money.
Do you want to pay it out of rainy day or commission? If you did rainy day, you could probably do a transfer either
We
way.
could do a transfer. If you just did it through rainy day.
Well, we can transfer instead of additional, let's just do that. It's only $800, but
I get to paid sooner.
yeah,
That way you don't have to do.
you don't have to advertise either.
If you transfer in rainy day.
Yeah.
We can transfer within the 3. I can transfer from emergency declaration to consultant. No, it's in series, so I would just have to file the transfer.
Let's just do that then. That works. I'll make that motion.
Corey made a motion to transfer in rainy day. Do I have a second?
Second.
Fred, any further discussion?
Is that appropriate use of rainy day funds?
That's where the 15 came from.
Yes,
I mean, it's like a piggy bank.
it is essentially.
And I don't know that I like that idea. And if the commissioners have a line item,
They don't. They've exhausted theirs apparently.
what, I'm sorry?
They've exhausted that line item that would ordinarily be used to pay for this, for something like this. So we're going to have to do a rainy day transfer.
Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
I have sent around another updated draft of the Adams County Council Policy Manual. I did in each one of your drafts indicate where I have had feedback from council members, either questions, requests for additions, modifications, and changes. So that's where those highlights are. Everything else has previously been brought to you and with no feedback, comment, or request for changes. So this is what I have at this juncture. If you want to discuss it, if you would prefer to send comments to me and discuss that further, I would recommend that you have an approved draft going into the 2022 year though. So the new council, well, you again would have firm guidelines as to how things are going to be processed.
This is the October 8th, right?
No, this is a draft with a few more changes since then. I believe November 5th, I think. And I believe I sent that out on Friday.
You sent it out on Friday?
I sent it out on Friday. The only new information from that would have been a sub-paragraph indicating general information and procedure with a brief blurb on each of those, highlighting mission statement and vision. There have been some questions as to whether or not this really is up to date and accurately reflecting what the true vision and mission statements are. I took those directly from the prior manuals. So if anybody wants to make changes, apparently there's some feedback with that. And I've had some feedback with regards to the wage appeals, the content of the section on wage appeals. Some requesting more information, some requesting less. So this is the compromise that I've come up with regards to the wage appeals section.
So can we vote on this next month?
Absolutely. I'm just.
I think you're right, and have it ready for 22 though, but, so we pretty much need to vote on it next month, I would say.
Okay. Everybody has copies of it. If you'd like to give me comments, I can make additional changes or highlights, and we can table this and prepare for discussion and finalization next month then. Okay.
Another thing we might want to think about that is, do we want to do those, maybe it doesn't matter, but do we want to do those every year, like Dennis was saying, in January? So like at the beginning, like it won't matter for us, but fast forward a couple of years, to do it at the first meeting where you're organizing the rest of everything else. Isn't the first meeting where we do all the organizational stuff, like you choose all the everything?
Choose all the department heads and things.
And I think you choose your meeting dates and all that too, don't you? So I just wonder if maybe we do that every year. You're also renewing that and making any changes if people want to do things differently.
It's up to you.
We can talk about it next month, but I didn't know if that would make sense to just have that as part of the organizational thing. Because Dennis, wasn't that you that was saying that we should renew this every year? I was thinking that was
I
you.
think it's critical. Yes, I
Yeah,
do.
I agree with you.
The other thing is, like, in January, with a new council, like this year, we had 4 new ones that didn't even know what they were getting themselves into. So getting their feet wet for a couple months would be helpful.
It probably would be helpful for them to have it going in.
Yeah.
That just might, the manual might have to lag a year, honestly.
The previous council
'Cause I
makes
have-
the manual for the next one. I guess you can always amend it.
Although,
Yeah.
if you get elected in November, you can always say, give me a copy and get up to speed by January.
There's a lot of other stuff to get up to speed on.
Sure, I can understand that.
Julie Marie, do you have anything else?
Just 2 other small things. Just to let you know, there is something called House Resolution 5735 that got introduced to Congress October 26, 2021. There's been no action taken on that. I am following that. What that is doing is attempting to modify and expand some of the parameters of the ARP usage provisions. So I am monitoring that to see if it does in fact expand our ability to utilize some of those funds and things. So I will keep you apprised of that. The other thing that I wanted to just give you a heads up on, there may be some wailing and gnashing of teeth. OSHA has decided they're going to mandate, Biden has issued a mandate indicating that as of January 4th, all companies and agencies, including governments, with employees of over 100 people are going to be mandated to get the COVID shot. If they do not get the COVID shot, they will be mandated to take weekly COVID tests, and they have to be negative in order to work. This has already been challenged. On Saturday, an injunction was issued by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, pretty conservative circuit. Obviously, that's going to be challenged and taken to the Supreme Court, so we'll continue to watch that and see what's going on. That's obviously more the commissioner's purview than yours, but just thought you'd like to be aware of what may be coming down the pipe for some of the county employees if in fact it does get upheld. That's all I had for today.
Julie Marie, I gave you something that we just got in the mail. Is there anything that the council needs to be made aware of concerning that document?
No, as a matter of fact, we've already received that, and the insurance company is defending it and handling it, so we don't have any interest, we don't have any dog in that fight right now.
Awesome, thank you. Dan?
Julie Marie?
Yes.
The Justice Department has challenged that. Is that just still a legal process? The Fifth Circuit has done nothing with the Justice Department's challenge to their ruling?
It's been enjoined for the time being, at least down in the Fifth Circuit area. So right now, it's on hold. It's going to go up further, and we're going to see what happens, and we'll follow that. But if it's overturned or struck down, we'll know about it. If it's upheld, everybody's masking up or getting shots on January 4th.
What enforcement would they even have, I guess? I mean, what?
They're fines of up to $15,000 per violation is what I've been reading.
Which means, so the administrative guidelines that they released were that somebody within the employer would be responsible for maintaining vaccination status, negative status each week, and making sure that people are wearing masks. So my understanding from working with OSHA or IOSHA or OSHA and CAS is that when they say per violation, it's per person. It's not per company, it's not per entity. So if I've got 50 people who I don't know their vaccination status and they're not being tested, that's 50 times $15,000. So it's not like it's just a one-off, you know, you usually don't get a warning with OSHA.
And one of those things, and it's gonna mean more administrative paperwork to monitor all of those people, so. Yeah, so just to let you know.
Okay, thank you, Julie
You're
Marie.
welcome.
Next thing we need to do is the transfers. You'll go through, this was sent out to us.
I'll make a motion to approve all of them.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I was asked about the transfer from training and dues of subscription to office supplies for $18.50 on the 1000-211. I guess, is there anybody here that can answer?
Has she exhausted the other funds? What was the other, because we discussed this at budget time. This was one of those, that she has another fund that she can use.
Oh, like outside of general.
Yes. Have all those funds been exhausted before we?
So in reassessment, out of the 1,000 that was budgeted, there's 361 left.
How much?
Disclosure doesn't have anything, so there's just that 300, out of the 1,000, there's 360 left, so all that's been spent. And in county general, they started the year with 1,200 and there's only $27 left.
And it's for the end of the year.
I mean, right now, it's a transfer, right? Don't get me wrong, I think I know what it is, but
What is it?
I think they decorate their office.
I mean, I don't tend to worry too much about transfers, you know?
Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Keith, did you say
Aye.
aye? Okay, everyone said aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Bree? Do you have anything else? Oh, do we have salary ordinance we need to
We have
discuss?
salary runs, did we do all
We did all
of
of the additionals.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, we have the updated salary ordinance. Do I have a motion concerning the salary ordinance?
Make motion to approve.
Fred?
Second.
Keith? Fred, Keith? Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Bree? Bree, I watched a training yesterday on budget and finance too, and they were saying that the 1782 notices were coming out. Do you know when those come out for Adams County?
They have until the end of December.
Okay, will your office be able to give each council member the 1782 when it comes out?
I mean, we can send you a copy, but we only have 10 days to reply.
Awesome. All right. Anything else? Any comments from any citizens? Okay, I seek a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Dennis and Fred. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Have a good Thanksgiving, everyone.